So I've had a bunch of people send me this video of Matt Damon talking about the elite and the New World Order and this amazing speech on this evil world that's out there. And inevitably, anytime I get a bunch of these emails, I start to smell bullshit because I realize that it's affecting people on an emotional level and not a logical level. So I watched the video, and again, 95% of the video I can't argue with, mainly because he's describing the problem. You can't, look at this world rationally and see that, oh yeah, everything's okay and stuff like that. But you have to understand the key to propaganda, which most of it is got to be good, or else people wouldn't even listen to any of it. They have to reach you on some level, an emotional level. They have to have you agree with most of what they say. But the key to propaganda is for Matt Damon to properly describe the problem to the audience. And when the audience hears Matt Damon talk and properly describe the problem better describe the problem than the audience can, the audience will naturally assume that Matt Damon has the solution. And herein lies the rub. And again, this is not a knock against Matt Damon. I mean, any celebrity that even knows the names of Zbigniew Brzezinski, much less the evils that he's done and the analogies that he brings to the table, it certainly deserves an applaud. But I'm a big believer, listen to all and follow none, and I have a feeling Matt Damon's going to be one of these nuns. And I'm going to play the video, let you listen to it, and see where your bullshit radar detector comes off. Because I have a feeling Matt Damon's going to end up being another one of these Russell Brand celebrity, revolutionary guys, and I'll let you listen to the video, and I'll come back and let you know what I see.
I start from the supposition that the world is topsy-turvy, that things are all wrong, that the wrong people are in jail, and the wrong people are out of jail. That the wrong people are in power, and the wrong people are out of power. That the wealth is distributed in this country and the world in such a way as not simply to require small reform, but to require a drastic reallocation of wealth. I start from the supposition that we don't have to say too much about this, because all we have to do is think about the state of the world today and realize that things are all upside down. Now, if you don't think, if you just listen to TV and read scholarly things, you actually begin to think that things are not so bad, or that just little things are wrong. But you have to get a little detached and then come back and look at the world, and you are horrified. So we have to start from that supposition that things are really topsy-turvy. And our topic is topsy-turvy, civil disobedience. Now, as soon as you say the topic is civil disobedience, you're saying our problem is civil disobedience. That is not our problem. Our problem is civil obedience. Our problem is the numbers of people all over the world who have obeyed the dictates of the leaders of their government and have gone to war. And millions have been killed because of this obedience. We recognize this for Nazi Germany. We know that the problem there was obedience, that the people obeyed Hitler. People obeyed. That was wrong. They should have challenged, and they should have resisted. And if we were only there, we would have showed them. Even in Stalin's Russia, we can understand that. People are obedient. All these herd-like people. Remember those bad old days when people were exploited by feudalism? Everything was terrible in the Middle Ages. But now we have Western civilization, the rule of law. The rule of law has regularized and maximized the injustice that existed before the rule of law. That is what the rule of law has done. When in all the nations of the world, the rule of law is the darling of the leaders and the plague of the people, we ought to begin to recognize this. We have to transcend these national boundaries in our thinking. Nixon and Brezhnev have much more in common with one another than we have with Nixon. J. Edgar Hoover has far more in common with the head of the Soviet secret police than he has with us. It's the international dedication to law and order that binds the leaders of all countries in a comradely bond. That's why we're always so surprised when they get together. They smile, they shake hands, they smoke cigars. They really like one another, no matter what they say. What we are trying to do, I assume, is really to get back to the principles and aims and spirit of the Declaration of Independence. To stop obeying the laws that demand killing or that allocate wealth the way it's been done, or that put people in jail for petty technical offenses and keep other people out of jail for enormous crimes. My hope is that this kind of spirit will take place not just in this country, but in other countries, because they all need it. People in all countries need the spirit of disobedience to the state, which is not a metaphysical thing, but a thing of force and wealth. And we need a kind of declaration of interdependence among people in all countries of the world who are striving for the same thing.
So let me ask you guys a few questions. See all those old videos of World War II with the Bolsheviks in Russia, with these loud, massively followed revolutionaries, and everybody's listening and cheering on to them. And then you look at Stalin and Hitler and Mao, and there's all this stuff. Listen, collectivism is very enticing, and they will describe the problem better than you can. The Bolsheviks laid out a huge claim against the Tsar, Hitler against the Jews. And all these guys end up rallying the troops against a gut reaction, especially people who are disenfranchised. And they always lay out some sort of collective revolution. And that's my two problems here with Matt Damon. His two solutions are a massive reallocation of wealth,
but to require a drastic reallocation of wealth,
which means using force, which would come in the form of this newly conquered government.
And therefore, under these conditions, it urges the right to alter or abolish their current form of government, and the stress had been on abolish. But to establish the principles of the Declaration of Independence, we're going to need to go outside the law.
That Matt Damon wants to do. I guess he doesn't like the fascist government, so I'm quite sure that he'd be in charge of a more socialist government based off of all of his prior political standings. I mean, this guy has always been on the Hollywood liberal left, and now he's coming across as this Thomas Jefferson, revolutionary. If that doesn't ring any bullshit alarms for you guys, I don't know what does. I mean, I don't think he's I don't think he supports the Second Amendment. And I'm sure that Matt Damon's not donating all of his money back to inner city projects while he flies around on his G5 jet, talking hypocrisy out his ass. But just like Russell Brand, just like a lot of these other guys, in fact, I'm, all forms of collective revolution. And I used to be a part of this. Like, I used to, think that there was the idea where you can get Americans in the world to see the higher, we could have positive reform, but there won't. The very fact is, no collective effort will ever succeed against the system because it's not of the opposite consciousness. There's been tons of counter-revolutionaries and revolutionaries throughout the ages. All forms of collectivism are ultimately destroyed by either psychopaths rising to the power inside of the collective organization or outside collectivists infiltrating, subverting, and destroying any collective effort. This is the reason why history repeats over and over again, because guys like Matt Damon and Russell Brand and Alex Jones and, all these guys keep coming across with a new collective solution. These collectivist messiahs want us to kind of throw our minds out the window and follow the guy that says 95% of the right things. There is no collective solution to these collectivist problems. This is a global, generational Ponzi scheme that's going to come to an end. In fact, when this all happens, no one's coming to save you. So what I've been promoting throughout this whole time, and it's a very lonely, not so sexy position to have, is that personal responsibility, walking away from the system, becoming independent of the system, logically seeing that you cannot control anything outside of your control, and instead of giving your power over to the next political puppet, putting your money into a bank where you're an unsecured creditor, the lowest form of creditors you could possibly be, instead of working for corporations, instead of buying into consumerism, instead of wasting your time and energy, consuming things that you don't need with money that you don't have, instead of indoctrinating your kids in these collectivist mindsets, instead of following, praying for some religious savior to come save you with these collectivist messiahs, realize that you are the solution. You're the one that has all the solutions in your hands, and you need to just become focused on and put your energy towards the things that you can control. There's no Matt Damon coming to save you. There's no collectivist puppet that's going to come save you when the chips are down. You are the only one you can rely upon, and ultimately that's what gives me inspiration to keep moving forward, because every individual that listens to this message and that takes personal responsibility to walk away from the system and become independent will be a seed for the next consciousness and the next paradigm to bring forth a new way of life, an opposite consciousness, one of personal responsibility, one that's completely different than we've seen over the last 2,000-3,000 years of written history that has constantly rotated through this. Stop the revolution, start the evolution.